My entitled daughter and her freeloading fiancé tried to corner me with POA papers over dinner, demanding that I hand over $65,000 for their dream honeymoon getaway. But let me tell you, this old man didn't make it to his 60s by being anybody's fool. Instead of rolling over, I buried their little scheme before it even left the table. Hey Reddit, I figured I'd share one from my side of life experience. At 62, I've seen enough to know a setup the moment I smell it. I raised my kids, worked 4 decades of honest labor, and saved smartly. I thought I'd earned some peace after losing my wife, Margaret, a few years back. These days it's just me, downsized from the big family house into a duplex where life stays simple. I cut my own grass, flip burgers on the weekends, keep every penny balanced in my books, and enjoy my ball games. I'm not filthy rich, but I'm secure, and I guard that security like a hawk. Apparently, in my daughter's eyes, that makes me her personal ATM. Emily, my only daughter, is 34. Once upon a time she was my sweet, goofy kid. Now she's glued to her phone, living for likes, and acting like the world owes her. Then there's Daniel, her fiancé, 36 and a real estate guy. The minute I met him, I knew what he was: slick suit, shiny watch, hair greased back like he's auditioning for a gangster movie. Talks fast, says nothing, and always circles back to money. A salesman through and through. So one Saturday, they show up at my place. Daniel's grinning like he just won the lottery, and Emily's all serious, like she's about to deliver courtroom testimony. My gut already told me I wasn't going to like what was coming.
We sit down.
Daniel clears his throat and says, "William, we need to talk about something important." Let me tell you, nothing good ever follows that line. Sure enough, out comes their big idea. They wanted me to fork over $65,000. Not for a house, not for paying off debt, not for a business or an investment.
No, this was for a vacation.
A month-long luxury trip to the Maldives. A private villa, imported marble bathrooms, spa days, private chefs, the whole fantasy package. I laughed out loud, thought it was a joke. 65 grand? For sand, sun, and cocktails? I said, "What's next, are you buying the island too?" But they weren't laughing. They were dead serious. Emily leans in, voice low and sharp, and says, "Dad, you've got money. You've got mom's insurance, your retirement. Don't you want me to start my marriage happy?" I leaned back, folded my arms, and said, "Your happiness doesn't carry a $65,000 price tag. I'll give you $15,000. That's generous. More than I had when I got married, and enough for a decent wedding and a trip."
You want the Maldives? Great.
Find a travel agent and a second job. Daniel jumps in with his sales pitch. "William, think about this. It's not just about Emily. With the baby on the way, don't you want her to feel secure? This is about family. Think of it as investing in your grandchild's future."
I smirked. An investment?
Funny, I always thought investments gave returns. A vacation doesn't pay back. You just want me to fund your Instagram slideshow. That knocked his grin off for a second. But Emily snapped right back with, "You're being selfish. Daniel's dad helps us all the time. He understands family." That was the last straw. I leaned forward and said, "Then go ask him for your $65,000. See if he buys your pitch." My answer isn't changing. Here's the truth, I love my daughter. Always have. But the tone in her voice that night wasn't love. It was entitlement, pure and simple, Daniel's words dripping off her tongue.
I stayed calm.
No yelling, no theatrics.
Just firm.
I worked 40 years for this money. I saved every dime, sacrificed when I had to, and buried your mother before I touched a cent of it. That money is for keeping me afloat, not bankrolling a luxury trip you'll forget about in 6 months.
15 grand.
Take it or leave it. Emily's eyes went ice cold. She stood, grabbed her purse, and hissed, "If you don't care about my happiness, don't expect to see your grandchild." Then she stormed out. Daniel trailed behind, not even glancing back.
The door slammed.
You'd think I'd be crushed.
But honestly?
I sat back in my recliner, turned on the ball game, and thought, if they're going to try and run a shakedown on me, they better bring more than puppy dog eyes and fake guilt. This wasn't Emily's first stunt. But it was the biggest. And I could see it plain as day. Daniel wasn't marrying my daughter, he was marrying her access to me. The silence lasted for weeks.
No calls, no texts. Fine by me.
I fixed the leaky sink, paid my bills, enjoyed the quiet. But here's the thing about grifters, they don't quit. They regroup. They plan the next move. And sure enough, a couple of weeks later, Emily calls me, voice sweet as honey. Dad, maybe we were both too stubborn. Daniel and I want to talk things over. Let's do dinner. Vittorio's our treat. Vittorio's isn't some burger joint. That's fine dining, white tablecloth territory. My gut told me they weren't inviting me to reconnect. No, they were setting up their next play. It's where I took Margaret for our 25th anniversary. Emily knew that. That was the hook. She picked the one place she thought could soften me up, which told me two things. 1, they wanted me sentimental, and 2, Daniel was behind it. I said, sure. Kept my voice steady, didn't let on. I was already 10 steps ahead. I hung up, sat back in my chair, and thought, all right Daniel, let's dance. See, most people my age get written off as slow or easy to push. I like leaning into that. Folks expect me to nod along. Then I hit them with something they didn't see coming. Anyway, I wasn't walking into Vittorio's blind. I got my ducks lined up. First thing, I pulled out my phone and scrolled down to Susan Harper. She's been practicing family law longer than Daniel's been alive. Susan doesn't do small talk, doesn't sugarcoat. She's the type who'll eat a young lawyer for breakfast and not even need coffee after. I'd had a chat with her after Emily's first blow-up. Just a what-if conversation. Now, I made sure her number was pinned to my favorites list. So before I left the house, I shot Susan a quick text with a time and table number just in case Daniel's let's talk meant something slimier than pasta and small talk. She didn't confirm she'd show, but I knew if things smelled off, she'd be there. Vittorio's looked the same as always. Emily was already there, dolled up in some designer dress I couldn't pronounce. She stood, hugged me, said, "You look great, Dad." I gave her a once-over and said, "You too." Must have cost Daniel a week's paycheck. She forced a laugh, sat back down. We ordered water, made small talk. I asked about her pregnancy. She gave me the rundown like she was reading off a brochure. Then she dropped, "Daniel's just finishing up at the office. He'll be here any minute."
Of course he was.
I nodded, leaned back, sipped my water. "Looking forward to it," I said. Though what I meant was, let's get this circus going. While we waited, I kept my phone on the table, screen down. But Susan's number was one swipe away. I also had Oliver's number queued. My son's an ER doc.
Cool head under pressure.
Doesn't waste words.
The type of guy you want around when stuff goes sideways. And knowing Daniel, it was about to go sideways real fast. When Daniel finally walked in, I didn't even flinch. He wasn't alone. 3 suits walked in behind him, briefcases in hand, and that's when I knew my gut was right. This wasn't dinner. This was business. Their business. Their shot at cornering me. But here's the thing. I wasn't cornered. Not even close. I'd played this game too long to fold now. Daniel strutted over like he owned the place, flashing his fake movie star smile. Behind him, 3 lawyers trailed in with their briefcases, like ducklings following their mom. Real subtle. Vittorio's is candlelight and pasta, not a boardroom. They looked ridiculous. "William," Daniel said, "thanks for meeting us. We thought it'd be best to talk things through with some professional guidance." Professional guidance? I repeated. Funny. I didn't realize reconciliation required a legal team. Guess I missed that episode of Dr. Phil. Emily shifted in her chair. Wouldn't look at me. She muttered, "Dad, they're just here to help explain some things." "Aha," I said, leaning back. "So, do I order lasagna before or after the interrogation?" One of the suits, a silver-haired guy with that practiced predatory grin, slid a manila folder across the table. "Mr. Carter," he said, "my name is Charles Bennett. We've prepared some documents we believe will make things easier for everyone involved." I didn't touch the folder, just looked at it like it might bite. Easier for who exactly? Daniel jumped in before Charles could answer. "It's simple, William. You sign over power of attorney. That way Emily and I can manage your finances, investments, property decisions. You know, take some weight off your shoulders." I raised an eyebrow. "Take weight off my shoulders? I still carry my own groceries, son. Pretty sure I can handle my bank account." Daniel chuckled like I'd told a dad joke. Of course. But you're 62 now. Things get complicated. Markets shift. Why stress yourself when we can handle it?" I stared him dead in the eye. "Daniel, I still do my taxes by hand and caught the county assessor overcharging me $800 last year. If you think I can't add, you've been sniffing too much copier ink." Emily finally spoke up. Her tone was flat, cold. "Dad, this is the smart move. If you sign, everything runs smoothly. If you don't, well, you might not see your granddaughter grow up." And there it was, the threat straight from my little girl's mouth. For a second, I just sat there, taking in the gall of it. Then I leaned forward, folded my hands, and said, "So that's the deal? Sign my life away or lose my grandkid. You realize that sounds less like family and more like a ransom note, right?" Emily's jaw tightened. Daniel put on his calm businessman face. "No one's threatening you, William. We're offering security for Emily, for the baby, for you. This way, nothing gets mismanaged." "Mismanaged?" I repeated. "You mean like your leased BMW that's overdue for service or your last 3 can't-miss real estate deals that missed so hard they're in orbit?" His smile twitched. The silver-haired lawyer cleared his throat like he wanted to move things along. "Mr. Carter, if you could just sign here and initial here, we can finalize this tonight." I finally opened the folder. Power of attorney, just like I thought. Full control of my accounts, my property, my insurance. 40 years of sweat and work laid out like a buffet for Daniel to dig into. I closed it calmly. "And if I don't sign?" Emily finally looked at me. Her eyes were cold, calculating. "Then you won't see Lily. It's your choice." I let that hang for a moment, then reached into my jacket pocket, past my wallet and glasses, and pulled out my phone. I scrolled until I hit the number I wanted. Emily's eyes narrowed. "Dad, what are you doing?" I pressed call, put the phone to my ear. "Hey, Oliver, it's Dad. Need you at Vittorio's on Meridian." "Yeah, now. Don't worry about changing. Scrubs are fine. Just get here." I hung up, set the phone down on the table. "Screen up this time." Daniel laughed nervously. "There's no need to drag Oliver into this. This is between us." I smirked. "Between us?" "Daniel, you walked into dinner with 3 lawyers. I think us left the building 20 minutes ago." The younger lawyer looked uncomfortable, shuffling papers he wasn't reading. Charles tried again, softer this time. "Mr. Carter, family matters can get emotional. We're just trying to ensure everything is handled properly." "Handled properly," I said. "That's a good one. Let me guess. For a small administrative fee, right?" Daniel's jaw twitched again. "William, please. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. You should be thanking us for stepping in." I laughed loud enough that a couple at the next table turned their heads. "Thanking you, son? I'd thank you if you grabbed the check once in a while, but unless your signature magically adds commas to my balance, you don't get to step into anything." The silence after that was tight. Daniel shifted. Emily looked down at her nails. The lawyers exchanged glances like vultures, realizing the prey wasn't dying on cue. I glanced at my watch. "Oliver will be here in about 20 minutes, give or take. He drives faster than you sell nonsense, so maybe less. Why don't we wait until he arrives? He's good at reading people." Daniel's smile cracked. "William, come on. You don't need Oliver involved. This is a decision only you can make." "Exactly," I said. "Which is why I'm not letting you make it for me." For a minute, no one spoke. Charles whispered something to Daniel, who nodded stiffly. Emily still wouldn't meet my eyes. I leaned back, relaxed, and folded my arms. "Tell you what, gentlemen. Let's all enjoy the nice music, the candlelight, maybe even order a plate of pasta while we wait for my son, because I've got a feeling he'll have a few choice words about all this. And trust me, he's a lot less patient than I am." The silence stretched tight as piano wire. Then the door opened. In walked Oliver, fresh from the hospital, still in scrubs, badge clipped to his collar. He spotted the table, sized up the scene in 3 seconds flat, and strolled over. "Wow," he said, pulling out a chair. "Dinner with lawyers. Fancy. You paying, Daniel?" "No? Didn't think so." Daniel stiffened. "Oliver, this isn't necessary. We're just—" Oliver cut him off with a hand. "Don't waste my time. I was elbow deep in a guy's chest an hour ago. If you dragged me here because you're running another scam, I'm charging you consulting rates." I leaned back, hiding a grin behind my hand. My boy was sharp, and I knew Daniel had no clue what storm just rolled in. The silver-haired lawyer cleared his throat. "Mr. Carter, we were simply presenting your father with an option to ease the burden of managing his assets." Oliver leaned forward, elbows on the table. "Assets? You mean his retirement, his house, the stuff he spent 40 years building, and you want him to hand it over to Captain Late Payment over here?" He jerked a thumb at Daniel. "Yeah, not happening." Daniel bristled. "You don't understand the arrangement. This is about protecting Emily and the baby." Oliver gave him a slow once-over, like a doctor examining a rash. "Protecting them? Daniel, you can't even protect your own credit score. You've been ducking Visa since 2019.
"Don't talk to me about protection." Emily slammed her phone down. "Oliver, stop. This isn't your business. Dad needs to think about the future. You don't get it." Oh, I get it, Oliver said flatly. I get that you and your fiancée cooked up this little stunt to grab power of attorney. I get that you tried to corner Dad when you thought he'd be too old to fight back. But what you don't get, sis, is Dad isn't the fool you think he is. And neither am I.
I chuckled. Told you, Daniel.
He's less patient than me. The younger lawyer tried again, nervous sweat already showing. If we could just review the terms, I think you'd see. Oliver grabbed the folder, flipped a couple of pages like he'd done this 100 times, and tapped the third section with his finger. Here's your poison pill. Full authority, no oversight. The kind of garbage that lets you drain a man dry without him even knowing.
Don't insult me.
The guy shut his folder so fast it snapped. Daniel tried to salvage his pitch.
Oliver, come on. Think logically.
Dad can't handle everything forever. Wouldn't it be better if family stepped in before outsiders?
Oliver leaned in, voice sharp.
Daniel, you're not family. You're a parasite with a better suit than sense. And Emily, he turned to his sister, his voice cold now. I can't believe you'd sell Dad out for this guy. Power of attorney?
Really? What's next?
You take his car too. Emily finally snapped. We're offering security, Oliver. You don't know what it's like raising a child.
Oliver cut her mid-sentence.
I know what it's like saving lives while you play dress-up as a victim.
Don't lecture me. I couldn't help it.
I laughed out loud. Half the restaurant glanced over, but I didn't care.
Oliver, ease up.
You'll make them cry.
Good, Oliver shot back.
They should cry. They're lucky you even showed up tonight instead of calling the cops. Daniel's face was red now. His lawyer whispering frantically. This isn't over, Daniel muttered.
Oliver smirked. You're right.
It's not, because I'm making sure this little stunt follows you. You like leasing luxury cars? Good luck getting another when your name starts showing up on fraud watch lists.
Daniel blinked. What?
Oh yeah, Oliver said casually, like he was discussing the weather. I've got contacts who love hearing about guys like you. Fake businesses, bad credit, shaking down your fiancé's dad for cash. They eat that stuff up. Emily hissed, Oliver, shut up. Oliver ignored her, turning to me. Dad, don't sign a thing. Daniel sat there frozen. His perfect grin was gone, jaw tight, eyes darting between Emily and the lawyers, like someone just pulled the rug out from under him. Emily didn't look much better. I leaned back, arms crossed, watching the color drain from his face. The room was tense, and I knew it was only a matter of time before the next move hit the table. The room was dead quiet. Daniel was still clutching his precious folder like it was the Magna Carta. Emily had her arms crossed like she was queen of the castle, and Oliver was leaning back in his chair with that smirk that always told me he was 2 steps ahead. That's when I saw her.
Susan Harper.
William, she said, resting a hand on my shoulder. Sorry I'm late. Traffic was hell.
Not a problem, I said.
You got here just in time. These kids were about to start performing a magic act with my bank account.
Oliver snorted.
More like a robbery without the masks. Susan's eyes flicked to Daniel, then Emily, then the pile of papers on the table. Ah, so this is the famous financial plan I've heard whispers about. She didn't even sit down before plucking the top sheet off the stack. Daniel tried to jump in, all charm and sales pitch. Now hold on, ma'am. She cut him off like he wasn't even breathing. I'm not your ma'am. I'm the attorney who's been cleaning up scams like this since before you were out of diapers. So I suggest you take a seat and keep your mouth shut unless you want to look even dumber than you already do. Oliver laughed so loud the couple at the next table turned to look. God, I like her already, he muttered. Daniel's smile cracked, but Emily leaned forward desperate. Susan, this isn't a scam. It's a real opportunity. Daniel's uncle is in finance. Oh, an uncle, Susan said, pretending to be impressed. Well, that changes everything. You hear that, William? Forget Merrill Lynch.
Forget J.P. Morgan.
We've got Uncle Greg with a Yahoo email address. I nearly spit my coffee out. Oliver slapped the table.
Uncle Greg, huh?
Probably runs his empire out of a basement next to his Xbox.
Daniel's jaw clenched.
This is serious. Susan raised a hand, silencing him again. Let me make this easy. William owes you nothing.
Not a dime.
He has no legal obligation to support your lifestyle, your half-baked business, or your little European fantasy honeymoon. The only person with any obligation to William is me. To make sure bloodsuckers like you don't drain him dry.
Emily bristled.
We're family. Susan leaned in, voice sharp enough to cut steel. Family doesn't ambush their father at dinner with contracts drawn up by some sketchy cousin who probably took a law class on YouTube. Family doesn't bully their old man into coughing up his savings. What you're doing isn't family. It's extortion wrapped in birthday wrapping paper. Daniel opened his mouth, but Susan steamrolled right over him. If you push this, I'll drag you into court so fast your head will spin. And trust me, Daniel, you do not want your employment history, your credit report, or your personal record dragged into the sunlight, because I already pulled your public records, liens, judgments, overdrafts. It's all right here. You should worry less about William's savings and more about your own mess.
Daniel froze.
His face went pale.
You what?
Susan smiled thinly. You heard me. You think William is a fool? He called me the second Emily sent that little dinner invite. So, while you were polishing your speech in the mirror, I was digging. And what I found. She tapped the papers with a manicured finger. Let's just say you should worry less about William's money and more about paying off your own debts before a real creditor comes knocking. Oliver whistled low. Somebody call the paramedics. This man's flatlining. I couldn't resist. Oliver, don't bother. Even CPR can't save a dead career. Daniel's ears were bright red now. He looked like a balloon about to pop. Emily, on the other hand, was floundering. Dad, please. You're making a mistake. Daniel's just trying to build something for us. For the baby, can't you see that? Emily, I said, my voice flat. You've got a kid now. That means responsibility. You want to build something? Build it with your own two hands. Don't expect me to bankroll your fiancé's gambling habit.
Her eyes widened.
That's not true. Susan leaned back, flipping through her notes. It's very true. Credit card advances, online betting accounts, 3 overdraft fees in the last quarter. Shall I keep going?
I chuckled.
Daniel, you're not just broke.
You're sloppy. And the worst part?
You thought I wouldn't find out. Susan stood, tucking her papers neatly back into her bag. Gentlemen, I think we're done here.
William, Oliver, shall we order dessert?
I feel like we've earned it. Oliver grinned like a wolf. Yeah, I could use a cannoli after watching this guy's life get dismantled. I smiled, leaning back in my chair, feeling the tension finally break. Make it 2 cannoli and maybe some decaf for Daniel. He looks a little jittery. Daniel glared, but he didn't say a word. Emily's face was pale, her eyes darting between me, Oliver, and Susan, like she couldn't believe her perfect little ambush had blown up in her face. I folded my arms and gave a slow nod. Checkmate, kids. You wanted to play chess with me? Next time, bring a board and some pieces that aren't made of cardboard. If Daniel thought storming out of Vittorio's meant the fight was still on, he was in for a rude awakening. The fallout didn't take long. 2 weeks later, I get a call from Susan. She's practically chuckling through the phone. Your future son-in-law just had his accounts frozen. Apparently, he wasn't as slick with his side deals as he thought. Which side deals?
I asked. All of them, she said.
Some half-baked real estate ventures with partners who finally wised up. They pulled the rug on him, filed suits, froze his access. The man can't even cash a check right now without getting flagged. I sat there sipping my coffee, watching the sun come up, and grinned. Guess Uncle Greg wasn't much help after all. Oliver, of course, was eating it up. Every other day he texts me screenshots. Daniel spotted arguing outside a strip mall office. Daniel trying to unload his car online. Daniel getting roasted on a poker forum for being banned from a site. It was like watching a slow-motion train wreck, only I didn't even need popcorn. It was like watching a slow-motion train wreck, only I didn't even need popcorn. Emily, though, that's where the desperation started to ooze in. She tried every angle. First it was the "we're still family" approach. She mailed me a birthday card. Nothing special inside, just a happy birthday, Dad scrawled in that rushed handwriting of hers. No gift, no phone call, just enough so she could say she tried. Then came the chance encounters. Running into me at the hardware store, all smiles like nothing had happened. Oh Dad, what a surprise. I was just grabbing paint samples. Yeah, sure. Meanwhile, she lived 20 minutes away and hadn't touched a paintbrush since high school. See, I'd already made up my mind. I wasn't playing their games anymore. You can only fall for the same trick so many times before you start treating the magician like an amateur. And once I pulled my focus off their nonsense, life actually got better. Case in point, George Miller moved in 2 houses down. 70 if he's a day, ex-factory guy.
Tough as nails.
The type who wears suspenders unironically and calls everyone chief. First time I met him, he was cussing out a contractor for trying to overcharge him on a gutter job. I stepped over, backed him up, and 5 minutes later, we were on his porch swapping stories. "You remind me of the guys I used to work with," he said.
Sharp. Don't take crap from anybody.
"We're going to get along fine."
And he was right.
We've been grabbing coffee, talking shop, even started walking the neighborhood together. It felt good to shoot the breeze with someone who didn't want a dime out of me. Just a solid old school guy who called things like he saw them. That's what pushed me into volunteering too. George mentioned the local community center had a program where retirees help seniors spot scams. Phone calls, shady contractors, you name it. I figured, why not? I'd just gone through my own circus. Might as well put the lessons to use. Meanwhile, Emily kept fumbling the ball. Months rolled by, and somewhere in the middle of all Daniel's lawsuits and her guilt trips, she finally had the baby little Lily.
And here's the thing.
They named her after Margaret's mother, my late wife's mother, a woman Emily barely knew, but suddenly wanted to honor.
Oliver told me about it first.
"Dad, I think they're trying to pull on your heartstrings. Naming her after Grandma Margaret's side and all."
I just shook my head.
"Son, when you're drowning, you'll grab at anything. Doesn't mean it'll keep you afloat." Of course, Emily made sure to send me a glossy photo card. Big cursive letters. "Welcome, Lily." Inside, a note about how Mom would have loved to see this day, and we wanted you to be part of her legacy. I stared at it for a good 5 minutes, then dropped it in the shredder. Legacy isn't built on guilt trips and scams. Legacy is built on how you treat people while you're still breathing. And Emily and Daniel had already made their choice. Thing is, by then, I didn't even feel mad anymore. Not really. They'd tried to play me, and it backfired. Now I was busy living my own life, teaching seniors not to get hustled, shooting the breeze with George, eating Vittorio's lasagna without having to fend off a contract across the table. Daniel's reputation was dust. Emily was clinging to a sinking ship.
And me, I was fine. Better than fine, actually.
I sat on my porch one night. Oliver next to me, George across the street waving as he walked his dog. Oliver looked over and said, "You know, Dad, most guys your age are slowing down."
"You?
"You're just getting sharper."
I smirked.
"Well, son, some people age like milk. I prefer to age like a locked safe, harder to crack every year." Oliver laughed so hard he nearly choked on his soda. And that was that. Daniel could stew. Emily could scheme, but I wasn't their mark anymore. I was done being their wallet, their safety net, their gullible old man. And as far as I was concerned, the best part wasn't even cutting them off. It was realizing I hadn't lost anything at all.
They had.
Daniel's empire, if you could even call it that, crumbled faster than week old bread. The lawsuits piled up, and with no money to pay lawyers, he tried to represent himself. Court transcripts read like a comedy skit. The man actually argued that verbal promises were binding contracts. The judge nearly spit his coffee out. Word spread quick. Contractors he stiffed started blasting him online. One guy even made a website called DanielTakesandRuns.com. It was basically a museum of every job he'd botched. Emily must have been mortified, but she stayed by his side.
Loyalty is a funny thing. Doesn't mean you're right.
Just means you're stubborn. One evening, Emily showed up at my porch with Lily strapped to her chest. Daniel wasn't with her. She didn't ask permission, just walked right up like she owned the place. "Dad," she started, voice shaking, but still trying to sound strong. "I know things are rough, but we're family, and family helps each other." I leaned back in my chair, crossed my arms. Family doesn't set traps in restaurants and shove contracts under my nose. Emily, that was business, and business has consequences.
She tried the baby card. Look at Lily.
She deserves better than this. She deserves to know her grandfather.
I didn't flinch.
Lily deserves parents who don't use her as a pawn. You want me to respect her? Start by respecting yourself.
That stung.
She bit her lip, eyes watering. But I wasn't done.
You made a choice, Emily.
You hitched your wagon to Daniel, and when it fell apart, you thought I'd ride in on a white horse. I'm not that guy.
Not anymore.
She left without another word, but the silence spoke louder than anything. Daniel, meanwhile, kept digging his own hole. He started selling tools door to door.
Oliver ran into him once.
"Dad," he tried to sell me a used drill for $50. Swore it was top of the line. The thing had duct tape on the handle. I couldn't stop laughing. Guess he finally learned sales. Just 30 years too late. But Emily wasn't done trying. A few weeks later, she mailed me a letter, handwritten, 5 pages long. It was the longest thing she'd written since high school. She apologized, blamed Daniel's influence, said she missed Sunday dinners, begged me to reconsider. The kicker? At the end, she asked for $10,000 just to stabilize things until Daniel gets back on his feet. I didn't even read the whole thing. Oliver spotted the letter half-fed into the shredder, top page still dangling out.
You didn't even finish page 2, he asked.
Son, I told him, when a story begins with lies, you don't waste your time waiting for a good ending. Around that same time, Susan called with news that nearly made me drop my coffee. Daniel had tried to pull another trick, this time at City Hall, filing paperwork under my name and claiming I was his business partner in one of his doomed projects. Luckily, the city attorney's office caught it right away, slapped him with a cease and desist, and tossed the case to licensing. He was now one mistake away from losing the right to even pull permits in the city. The truth was, I couldn't even muster anger anymore. Daniel had become background noise, Emily a faint echo of disappointment, while I kept living my own life. George and I continued our community center work, and one Saturday, even gave a talk about how parents could avoid being manipulated by their own children. The room was packed, people clapped until their hands were sore, and one man even told me I should write a book. I laughed it off, saying books were too polite, I preferred telling things straight. By then, Oliver was coming into his own. He had earned a promotion, was dating a genuine girl, and often stopped by to update me. Dad, when Emily calls, I let it ring. I'm not her errand boy anymore, he said once. I smiled proudly and told him, boundaries make men, son, you're learning fast. The last straw came one Sunday when Daniel himself appeared on my porch, looking worn out, shirt wrinkled, eyes desperate. He shouted, you ruined me. If you had just signed that contract, I'd be fine. I stood calmly, like a man stretching before a slow swing. Daniel, you ruined yourself. You tried to hustle the wrong old man, and now you're paying for it. His face twisted with anger, but his words fell empty. I'll bounce back. Emily and I will rise again. I couldn't help smirking. Rise where? Out of bankruptcy court? Don't make promises your wallet can't cash. Oliver, hearing the noise, stepped outside and asked if I wanted him to call someone, but I waved him off. Daniel left, muttering threats, but deep down we both knew he was finished. And just like that, the storm passed. No more letters, no more surprise visits, just silence. Weeks later, I sat on my porch with coffee in hand, the sun warming my face, George walking by with a knowing nod, and Oliver calling from work sounding more confident than ever. Life felt good. The truth was, cutting Emily and Daniel loose wasn't just about money, it was about respect. They thought my age made me weak, that being a father meant being an endless ATM. What they forgot is that I've been around the block more times than they've tied their shoes. I don't bend easy, and I sure don't break. So when people ask me what happened, I tell them plainly, my daughter and her fiancé tried to play me, but they weren't ready for the old man's game. And I smile because in the end, I didn't just win, I walked away sharper, freer, and laughing louder than ever before.